The Root That Whispers. Prologue. In the misty northlands of Eldmere, villagers speak in hushed voices about a forest that swallows memory. A forest where the trees are said to whisper names in the dark and roots drink not just rain but regret. No map dares chart the Blackgrove. No one who enters comes out the same, if they come out at all. Yet this is where the story begins. Erin Valen was not a hero. She was a 23-year-old apothecary's apprentice in the town of Cowrow. Her life was mixing poultices, tending to sick goats, and dealing with gossiping townsfolk. But on the night of the blood ember moon, her dreams changed. She saw a tree with a face. Not a carving, but a living face weeping crimson sap. It whispered, "Come find your name." She woke with dirt under her fingernails and the scent of rot in her nose. The dreams returned. Each night, more vivid. Each time, the tree wept more. Then the letter arrived, sealed in wax, though no courier came. It was unsigned. Only a line written in trembling ink. The forest remembers what the world forgets. Come before it remembers you without kindness. The villagers begged her not to go. The Blackgrove eats souls, said old Mira. Even the gods blink when they look that way. But Erin felt pulled, not by courage, but by something ancient and personal. Something beneath her skin. The edge of the Blackgrove was like a breath held by the world. No birds. No rustling leaves. Just stillness so deep, it hurt. The moment she stepped across its boundary, time bent. The forest was alive with shapes that shifted when unlooked at. Trees leaned in. Shadows hung heavier. And the whispers began. Valen. Valen, forgotten blood. 3 days in, Erin met the Hollow Man. Or rather, what had once been a man. He wore no face, only a bark mask with a screaming mouth and empty sockets. He spoke without lips. You walk where names are stolen. Turn back or be unmade. But Erin asked, what does the forest want? The Hollow Man trembled. It wants what was stolen long ago. A girl. A secret. A root torn from its kin. And now, it wants you. He gave her a talisman, a piece of glass etched with a rune that pulsed faintly. This may not save you, he said, but it may let you see what others cannot. Then he stepped backward into a tree and vanished. On the 7th night, Erin came upon a clearing littered with ivory. Not bones, teeth. Thousands of them, arranged in spirals. In the center was a child, maybe 10 years old, with black eyes and moss for hair. I buried them, she said. The forest eats lies. And teeth are the last honest thing. Erin asked her name. I gave it to the roots. So they'd stop screaming. That night, the trees whispered louder. They spoke memories Erin had forgotten, her father's real name, her mother's final words, her own first nightmare. She wept. The ground beneath her cracked open, revealing roots twisted like veins. Something moved below. The deeper she traveled, the more Erin remembered things she never lived. A castle burning. A blade forged from moonlight. A woman's voice, her own, but older, shouting a curse in a dead language. At the heart of the Blackgrove stood it, the root mind. A tree as wide as a keep, its bark etched with thousands of faces, each one weeping sap. Some cried, some screamed. Some whispered prayers. One face was hers. The root mind spoke not in words, but in feeling, grief, rage, hunger, and ancient betrayal. And she understood, she had been here before. Long ago. She was no simple girl. She was part of a binding spell, a living seal meant to imprison the root mind. Her soul had been split and scattered to prevent its return. But it was returning. Through her. To escape, Erin had to reclaim what was stolen, her true name. The forest offered it, at a price. Speak the name, it said, and you will remember. But you will not be what you were. You will not be mortal. She stood at the brink of the heartroot chasm, the name burning on her tongue. Vaerysa Elwyn Thorne. The world shuddered. Light peeled from the trees. The faces on the root mine screamed in joy and agony. She remembered everything. She was a witch queen who had once sealed away the forest's hunger by sacrificing herself. But the seal was breaking. Her rebirth was not a rescue. It was a reckoning. Vaerysa, could destroy the forest or become one with it. Either choice would kill the girl she had been. Instead, she bargained. Let me stay. Not as your prisoner. As your voice. Let me tell the stories you bury. Let the world hear. The root mind paused. Then its roots released their grip. The trees parted. She walked back toward the edge of the forest, changed. Back in Calro, a stranger set up a small shop in the old bell tower. She sold talismans, told strange tales, and warned children not to walk alone after dusk. Some say she's just a bard. Others say the Blackgrove watches through her eyes. But all agree on one thing: her stories are too real. Too close. Too remembered. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can hear the roots whisper your name. Each dawn, Vaerysa swept the dust from her bell tower shop, arranging jarred herbs and glass talismans in neat rows. The townsfolk trickled in, ears pricked by her tales of the Blackgrove and marveling at the way she hummed its ancient language under her breath. One morning, a hooded stranger arrived, clutching a folded parchment edged in black ink. He placed it on the counter with a single word whispered low, "Heard." She unfolded it to find a crude map of another haunted wood, this one farther south, called the Hollowmere Forest. At its heart, a crimson symbol glowed like a wound. Beneath the map, a single line read: "The root mind reaches beyond Blackgrove. We need you again." Vaerysa's pulse quickened. Though she had sealed one forest's hunger, the darkness was not confined. Hollowmere, she knew, was where lost spirits wandered, souls who'd been claimed whole, not parted. Leaving Calro's dusty roads behind, Vaerysa packed her satchel with salt, iron root slices, and the rune talisman the Hollow Man had once given her. As she traveled, the air grew damp and cold, and birds fled overhead. On the third night, she camped at the edge of Hollowmere. The trees here were pale and gaunt, branches slick like bones. In the stillness, Vaerysa heard faint singing, as though a choir of children called her name. She gripped the talisman. It pulsed, a heartbeat of warning. "Not your name," a voice rasped behind her. She whirled to see a figure draped in wet moss and tattered linen. Its face was a hollow shell, eyes empty sockets leaking mist. "You heed the forest too late," it crooned. "For Hollowmere devours all who speak its melody." Vaerysa drew a circle in salt and stepped inside. "Then I will choose what I consume," she replied, chanting the rootmind's language softly. Her voice wove a barrier of light. The wraith recoiled, then vanished with a keening cry that rattled her bones. Guided by the map, Vaerysa reached a clearing at midnight. In its center sat a moss-covered well, its dark mouth yawning like a skull. From its depths rose soft whispers, fragments of laughter, cries of pain, and voices she once knew but could never place. She tied a rope to a nearby oak and climbed down. Each step drew her deeper into voices, a mother's lullaby, a lover's promise, a child's pleading. Vaerysa pressed her palm to the cold stone and whispered back the names she heard, collecting them like keys. At the bottom lay a pool of inky water. The surface shimmered with ghostly faces, mouths moving in silent despair. "Free us," they beckoned. Vaerysa touched the water. A chill shot through her arm, and then a hand, slender, pale, reached out. She snatched back, but the hand grasped her wrist. "Release the binding," it hissed. She gripped the talisman, running her finger over its rune. Remembering her bargain with the Blackgrove's root mind, she spoke more words of sealing than of telling. A surge of power rippled upward. The pool boiled, tossing spirits like waves. One by one, the faces vanished back beneath the surface. The hand slipped away. Vaerysa hauled herself up, chest heaving. The well's whispers stilled. Dawn broke over Hollowmere, gilding the broken branches. Vaerysa stood before the well's edge, weary but unbroken. She knew she could leave, letting the forest reclaim its dead. Instead, she whispered an oath. I am your teller, not your warden. Let me wander these woods with stories that suit the roots of your grief. For a moment, nothing stirred. The birds, pale as bone, returned, perching on skeletal limbs. One alighted beside her and cawed once. Then the forest exhaled. Vaerysa felt its pulse synchronize with her own. Hollowmere would no longer feed on souls unchecked. Instead, its stories, the lives lost to it, would be spoken aloud, brought into daylight to rest. Vaerysa returned to Calrow's bell tower at dusk, shoulders aching but spirit unbowed. Word of her deeds spread, she was the wandering teller, the woman who bargained with haunted woods. Her shop became a haven for travelers carrying talismans and tales of darkness. Each night, gathered by lantern light, they listened as she wove new legends, of forests that cried, of wells that whispered, and of the price of memory. And somewhere, in the shadows beyond her window, two forests watched. Blackgrove and Hollowmere, their roots now intertwined with her voice. For as long as Vaerysa speaks, their stories will never be forgotten, and the darkness they guard will know that, in every echo, her name still lives. Feel free to let me know if you'd like to develop any particular scene further, add more chapters, or weave in side stories and characters. The Root That Whispers, Part 2. A month after her return, Vaerysa received a visit from a pale traveler with glowing eyes and a lantern of bone. The light inside pulsed, not with flame, but with a beating heart. He introduced himself only as Grym, a keeper of unrest souls. He'd heard of her pacts. He brought a warning. 3 forests lie bound by the same root. You've come too. The third dreams. And it is dreaming of fire. Vaerysa saw the symbol etched in his lantern, a tree burning, its roots coiled like serpents. The forest was called Ashwind. Ashwind was unlike the others. Its trees did not whisper, they screamed. Charred trunks stretched toward a sulfur sky. Fire didn't burn here. It bled. Every root she stepped on trembled with pain. This forest was once alive with dryads and flame spirits. But someone had cursed it, chaining its spirits into eternal agony. Now, it wanted to awaken by consuming nearby villages in flame-born nightmares. Vaerysa found herself walking in her own memories, visions distorted by heat and rage. The forest wasn't testing her. It was feasting on her regrets. At the forest's heart, she discovered Emberglass Spire, a tower made of molten crystal and bone. It radiated warmth that peeled memory from flesh. Inside was a throne. Upon it, sat a scorched figure in rusted armor, once a forest guardian, now called the Cinder Lord. He whispered through a cracked jaw. I was meant to die with the forest. But the seal broke. Now I rise with it. Vaerysa challenged him, not with flame, but with memory, naming his true self, Torvin of the Wild Flame, a protector who'd sacrificed himself. He wept embers. The tower began to collapse. The Cinderlord's ashes formed a symbol, 3 spirals in a ring. It burned into Vaerysa's skin, marking her as flame-bound. She was now connected to all 3 forests, Blackgrove, Hollowmere, and Ashwind. Their spirits stirred in her dreams. She no longer merely told their stories, she contained them. Each night, a different forest spoke through her, demanding she speak its version of truth. The weight pressed on her soul. Her eyes began to reflect roots, teeth, and flickering embers. South of Calrow lay Varn, a mining town where people vanished without a sound. Below its earth was a sleeping mouth, a maw, formed of roots and old gods' bones. Vaerysa descended with a lantern and songs of the root mind. Underground, the tunnels became mouths. Faces in the rock begged for release. But some lied. Some bit. She sealed the largest fissure with salt iron and a story of the first tree that ever spoke. One voice remained. You are not Vaerysa. You are the wound the world forgot to close. In the woods near Varn, Vaerysa found a village hidden beneath a giant rotting stump. The inhabitants were neither fully human nor tree, bark children, born of Rootmind's severed thoughts. They lived in fear of her. Their matron, an ageless child named Nella who sings, claimed Vaerysa's rebirth would awaken the wrought father, a god imprisoned under the world tree. To prevent his rise, they had preserved silence for a century. Vaerysa offered them a tale, not a prophecy, but a choice: let me sing for you. Let your silence become story. They wept sap, and sang. To recover her strength, Vaerysa traveled to the moonroot market, a hidden gathering of spirits, witches, and root-bound peddlers. Under a crescent moon shaped like a sickle, she traded stories for spells, memories for tools. A hooded crone offered her a mirror carved of rootwood. It reflects only your truths, she rasped. When Vaerysa looked in, she saw herself as the forest. Vines in her hair. Soil in her veins. And eyes made of weeping bark. She shattered the mirror, but the image stayed. A village near Hollowmere begged for her help. Every night at dusk, a bell tolled from nowhere, and villagers forgot a piece of themselves. At its center was an abandoned chapel with a cracked bell and no rope. Vaerysa entered. On the altar was a child's doll made of hair and teeth. She rang the bell once. All the forgotten memories returned at once. A flood of screams filled the air, hundreds of years of silence undone. The village didn't survive the remembering. One morning, she awoke to find her shadow had roots. Wherever she walked, flowers died, trees leaned, and animals avoided her. A spirit whispered, "You carry too many names. The root that walks is waking within you." She journeyed back to the Blackgrove to seek the Hollow Man. But he had become hollow no more. Now, he was Root Father reborn, and he welcomed her as kin. "You are no longer storyteller. You are seed." Realizing she was becoming what she once sealed, Vaerysa sought an ancient weapon. The bloom of betrayal, a flower that could sever any bond, divine or cursed. It only grew where the innocent were buried. She found it growing in the ruins of her childhood village, long since claimed by the forest. Her family had offered her to root mind once, to save themselves. Plucking the bloom made her hand wither, but she smiled. She would sever the forests from herself. Vaerysa returned to each forest to sever the pact. But each resisted. The Blackgrove sent her dream ghosts of her younger self, begging her not to forget. Hollowmere played the laughter of all she'd saved, twisting it into sorrow. Ashwind reignited her bones from within. Each tried to consume her again. But she whispered three truths. I am not your prisoner. I am your teller. I carry memory, not roots. I sever, but I do not erase. The bloom flared. The bonds cracked. Freed from the forest's influence, Vaerysa began to wither, her powers tied to the very curses she had broken. Her skin lost color. Her breath fogged, even in summer. Her voice began to echo, as if distant. She journeyed to the world tree, root of all forests, to beg for balance. But it did not speak. It only listened. And in its silence, she understood, to sever the forest from herself, she had severed herself from the world. In the tree's heart, she found a glowing seed, her own soul, crystallized from the pain, love, and loss she had carried. She was not dying. She was becoming story itself. A being who no longer lived linearly, but narratively, a soul who wandered from place to place, memory to memory, planting legends like seeds. She took the seed in her hands. And planted it in herself. Now, wherever her story is told, forests quiet. Roots listen. And nightmares unravel. She is known by many names. The wandering teller. The root that walks. Flame-bound witch. Vaerysa of the three forests. But her tale is never the same twice. For she is not finished. She is still being told.